I'm Mike Isom, and you're tuned in to the Respect Yourself Network. Welcome aboard. This week, we're going to go back and talk about some of the things that we always talk about, matters that matter to men, or issues that matter to men. Let's put it that way. I just happen to believe that men are falling behind or slacking off on our responsibilities to be leaders in our households, leaders in our community, leaders in our churches, leaders on our job, whatever walk of life we find ourselves in. I think it's a natural state of affairs for men to have more of a, not necessarily take charge attitude, but at least become involved and not just be unwitting participants, following around, being bashed about by life and circumstance, and never taking charge of your own destiny. I think it's time for men to step up. The Respect Yourself Network was an idea that came from that thought. We need to step up. We need to become better versions of ourselves. We need to learn to be better husbands. We need to learn to be better fathers. We need to learn to be better community leaders, religious leaders, whatever it is that you do. I don't care if you're an airplane pilot or you drive a garbage truck. These messages are meant for you. Now, I do realize that there are other people out there other than men that are tuned into the show, I hope. And there's something in these messages for you too. But my focal point is for men. I'm going to take just a second again and remind you of the challenge I put forth to men. I'm still putting together my circle of 7. If you remember, I talked about the circle of 7. Six guys and myself to make up 7. Guys that I believe that are trying their best to be better versions of themselves. People that, can be honest with you and be honest about how they feel about issues, this, that, and the other. And we can share and put that information into a format that we can pass back and forth between us. And I think we'll all grow from that. And as I say every time when I bring up the circle of 7, I want my circle of 7 to end up being a circle of 77 and even farther than that. Don't feel restricted about what you got to do, but I want you to be thinking about some of the issues we talk about on the Respect Yourself Network more than when you're just watching the show, more than when you just going to the website or whatever. I want you to think about these issues while you're on your job, while you're spending quality time alone, with your significant other. I just want these things to come to the forefront of your mind so that you'll be thinking about, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Is there any way I can do it better? That's what the Respect Yourself Network is all about. Now, as I say every week, the Respect Yourself Network is an opinion show. It's based on my opinion about these topics I bring forth. I know you're not going to agree with everything I say, and as I always say, I hope you don't agree with some of the things I say. Because when you disagree with me, it makes you form your own opinion. It makes you express your own opinion. That way, the network continues to grow. But all I want you to understand is these principles. I am a man, I'm a happily married man, and I am a Christian man. And everything I come to you about is coming from those perspectives. Nothing else. I am a happily married Christian man, and I'm going to talk to you about things that matter to me, that I think should matter to all of us, and I hope that you'll listen with an open mind and open heart, and then, again, get some ideas of your own and start going out and doing the same thing I'm doing, which is sharing your opinion and your thoughts about these matters with men that you care about, men in your sphere of influence, people that you talk to on a day-to-day basis. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of disclaimer on this one right here. This is one of those messages that I'm going to try to come out today that I know I'm going to get some pushback on. I know there's going to be a lot of people that feels like I'm taking this thing too far or I'm being a little bit too cynical. But I want to caution you here. Before you go off on that negative thing or think I'm going off on negative thing, it's not universally applicable. What I'm going to talk about today is not something that fits every circumstance. All I'm saying is, when you find yourself in these circumstances, I want to put a little something in your mind for you to think about. And I guarantee you'll find out that somewhere along life's journey, you've either been there or you're going to be there real soon. Now, that topic is going to be, when does your kindness become a weakness? When does your kindness become a weakness? Now, you've heard people say that, sometimes facetiously, don't take my kindness for weakness, this, that, and other. But what I want to do is I want to expound on that a little bit deeper. Because if you truly care about your fellow man, if you truly care about others and people around you and people you have contact with and influence over, or people who have influence over you, sometimes you find yourself in a position where you need to pour into that person, or you need to give, or you need to something. You got to exert an act of kindness or several acts of kindness toward that person. Now, when does that kindness become a weakness? And when that weakness turns around, or that kindness turns around and it becomes a weakness and starts to affect you in a negative way, starts to affect your lifestyle in a negative way, start to affect those people that you deeply care about in a negative way. That's what I mean when I go into it. Now, as I said before, it's not universally applicable. So I can't tell you some things, some rules of thumb to go by. So the next time you find yourself in a position, you go, oh yeah, I remember what Mike said on the Respect Yourself Network, and I'm going to try that. It's not going to work every time. All I want you to do is just keep your antenna up, pay attention to what's going on. Those questions that I always like to throw out there. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? And how can I do it better? And everything you go to do, that's all I want you to think about. So again, now, this story right here, one of those hurtful stories for me. I share personal stuff with you guys just about every week. But some of these stories are stuff that I remember from a long time ago, and some of it is stuff that I'm living on a day-to-day basis. I'm trying to open up me, open up my head, open up my heart, open up my life to you as an example of what I do, when I do, how I do. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, and sometimes, I don't know the answers, and I may be throwing something out there that you can help me with. But I got this very good friend of mine, and that's a word I use a lot, very good friend of mine. Let's just check that right now. I got this guy that's a friend of mine, because the words very good seems to lead you in a pathway that you can't always follow. But I have a friend of mine, okay? We've been friends for a long time. Now, being totally politically correct, this guy's life is a series of train wrecks, okay? Every time I turn around, this guy has backed himself in the corner. He's put himself in a position where everything is coming up ugly, and he's stuck in the middle. Because I care about him, I found myself being pulled into his situation more often than I'm comfortable with. Okay? He calls me, starts out he just wants some advice, or he's thinking about doing something. And, and he tells me, this is what I'm going to do. And I said, listen, remember last time you started down this road, you got yourself in a world of trouble. Don't go into this thing making those same mistakes this time. You really need to take some self-assessment time and figure out what it is you're trying to accomplish, what it is you're doing wrong, before you get in the middle of it, and then you make a mess. Well, oh, Mike, man, you always say that. As far as you're concerned, I can't never do nothing right. That's not me talking. That's you talking. But I can show you in our recent history and our distant history where I've been right more times than not, if I were to say that. But anyway, let's get back to what's going on with him right now. This guy ends up in jail. He's been homeless 4 or 5 times. He's gotten himself into all kinds of pickles and jams that you just not. It's like this guy walks around with a dark cloud over his head. Every time you turn around, he's into something. Now, when I first met him, he's a few years my junior, and I thought I was, I kind of put myself in a mentor-mentee situation. He came up to me one day. We met on just general circumstances. Kind of hit it off. He's a very likable guy, very personable, very charismatic guy, and easy to talk to, have a conversation with. But you got to be careful, because he kind of drew me in. And he was listening to me, and I was listening to him. We got to be friends and this, that, and the other. I helped him get a job. He was unemployed at that time. So I went out on a limb a little bit, went to some people who I knew that was hiring, and said, hey, I got a friend of mine. Using that word again. I got a friend of mine that I want to introduce you to, and I want you to offer him a job and see what you can do. Anyway, make a long story short, this guy got the job, and he started working on the job. He was so appreciative and so grateful. I was like seeing this guy every day. He was calling me, whatever. So his life seemed to be taking an upward, mobility position. And I thought, this is great. I help somebody out now, give him a little nudge and let him go on his way. Well, as oftentimes happens, one good bit of good fortune led to another. He met a beautiful young lady. They hit it off. The next thing you know, they get married. They're going to have a child. And they want to name me and my wife as the godparents. And I'm thinking, okay, this is just one of those situations where we're going to take off and this is going to really be good. But what? I'm glad you asked that question. Once he gets married, and once he gets into this situation and his life is going off on this upward slant, as I said before, he gets in his own way. Okay? All of a sudden, now this one woman's not enough. Okay? Now I see the signs. I see what he's doing. I know I go to him and I say, hey man, I'm going to tell you something. I played those games a long time. That leads to destruction. It leads to all types of negative things happening. Temper that. Leave that alone. You got a beautiful wife. You got a lovely little son here who happens to be my godson. Take care of him and do what you got to do. And, leave the streets alone. In my presence, he's one thing. When he gets away from me, he's something else. But it always gets back. Anyway, you guessed it. Next thing you know, his life is disheveled. Woman's put him out of the house. He's got nowhere to live. Now all of a sudden he can't get organized enough to go to work. So the job that he's been working on for 3 or 4 years, now all of a sudden he's on probation. Yeah, next thing you know, he's terminated, and now his life is just flat. He's out. He's got nothing going for him whatsoever. So he comes back to me. Mike, man, all of this, it wasn't my fault, man. So and so and so and so and so and so. Yeah, I understand. What can we do to get you back on path? Well, this is what I need for right now. Oh, you need a little loan? Okay, here you go. Here's a few dollars. You need to be put up a couple of months in a hotel or get you a short-term rental place. I'll help you with that. But you really need to get on track, buddy. You need to try to get back together. This was over 15, 20 years ago. How many times has he gone out and not just take your kindness and flip it around and turn it into something that he uses to harm himself, but he harms other people in the process. Every time, like I said, charismatic guy, really nice personality, really easy to get along with, attractive to other people, he lands on his feet. Next time he shows up at the house, he's got a different girl. Girl's working. She got herself together. She got a nice car. She's got a couple of teenage daughters. He's going to help her raise their daughters, yada, yada, yada. I want you to come to the wedding. I want you to be involved. I'm turning my life around. I'm really on the right path this time. Yep. Right down the road, here we go. Next thing I know, they're on the outs. He's stealing money from her, okay? Some insinuations being made about his activities around the girls. We'll leave it right there, let your imagination run wild. Nonetheless, she had to put him out. Now he's homeless again, twice in the past 5 years, okay? We go on, but you see the point. Getting off of this guy. Every time he gets in a jam, I run to his aid. I try to give him counseling. I've given him money. I've stepped in. I've tried to be his champion in situations, these times when he's ended up in jail, which is never his fault. You know that, right? It's never his fault. And all of these things. And he would say, well, I was a high-ranking law enforcement official. What am I doing messing around with somebody with a criminal record? He's my friend. I care about him. I care about what goes on in his life on a day-to-day basis. And when he gets in a jam, I felt like I needed to come help him out. And I've done it time and time again. But let me tell you when the problem starts to get in. The problem starts to get in is now, at some point in the relationship, what I thought was an act of kindness, he's looking at it like it's an obligation. Like, I've got to help him, because if I don't help him, the world's going to come to an end. So now I'm running around feeling like, okay, I really got it. When an act of kindness gets misused, going back to the topic, when does your kindness become a weakness? Number one, when an act of kindness gets misused, one act becomes several acts, and then it begins to create a pattern. You get where I'm coming from? There's a person that's constantly coming at you with a different problem for the day of the week. And every time you come to him, he's expecting you. He's expecting you to pull him out. He's expecting you to bail him out of the fire, bail him out of jail, give him someplace to live, give him something to eat, have him buy this, do whatever the situation. It becomes a pattern, and that's when your kindness can become a weakness. When that recipient of your good deed turns around and makes it feel like you're obligated to do it, that's number two. When you feel obligated, like you don't have any other choice, you got to help this person, because if you don't help them, nobody else is going to help them. And it's usually being exaggerated on their part. Now, I told you guys this wasn't going to be a real feel-good type of message we're going to be talking about today. And I'm sure there's somebody out there reviling in their spirit right now going, well, kindness and generosity and charity. I said it's not, cross-applicable. You can't make this fit every situation. I'm asking you to just take the time out to examine every circumstance and situation and see when it falls into these categories and what are some of the things you can do to recognize it and kind of get it. Now get this. Guilt can force you into making some poor decisions. Whether you're the recipient or whether you're the guy that's trying to help somebody else. Guilt. Okay, I feel bad. I don't know. I know this guy, 3 weeks ago, he needed $1,500. He told me he was going to pay me back in 3 days. He didn't. And now he's coming back. He needs $500 more just to get him, to get here and there and the other. And I happen to have it. I got $500 laying over there in the desk drawer that I'm not doing anything with. Right. Who's in that position? So the question comes up, $500 more. I just gave you 15, now you need 5. Oh, okay. But he's pitiful. His situation is terrible. They're getting ready to repossess his car. If you don't have a car, you can't get to work. Then the cycle just goes on. And all you got to do is let me have the $500, and I'll give it right back to you, and I'll be able to fix everything right up. Guilt. Feel bad because he's going to lose his car, he's going to lose his job, and he's going to end up on the street again, and I could have stopped it. Here, man, here's the $500. Bring it back to me. Now, I need this $500. I need this $500 to pay a bill I've got coming up, so make sure you bring that back. I made a bad decision. So, okay, I've given the guy another $500 because of the guilt that I was feeling. You understand what I'm saying? When your kindness becomes a weakness and starts to affect you. Now, I put myself in a bad position. I turned around and loaned this guy another $500. You might as well say I just gave it to him because he never gave me anything else. What gives me the idea that he's going to come back and return that $500? But I still care about this guy. Now, a lot of people out there right now are looking at me and going, well, you should kick this dude to the curb. But see, that's real easy to say when in a vacuum, when you can look at the situation and separate your feelings for a person from their actions. That's what we're taught, right? That's the way we interact with people. So it's not as easy as just saying, well, just kick him to the curb. Because I'm still going to see him. I'm riding down the road and I see him standing on the side of the road. I'll work for food or whatever the situation. It's going to have an effect on me. My kindness my initial kindness has become a weakness that somebody else is taking advantage of and making my lifestyle suffer. We got to deal with that. That's part of life. Like I said, this is not one of them feel good, treat your lady right, she'll treat you right, and how to make money and how to avoid pitfall messages. This is one of those twist in the wind situations that hits you right in the gut. Like I said at the beginning of the show, either you've been there or you're gonna be there, and all I want to do is just give you something to think about. This actually happened to me. This is not some script I'm following. Now, this actually is something that I've lived through for a while. Now, let's go back to when does your kindness become a weakness? The next stop. The next stop is this. I didn't tell my wife because she's already drawn the line. Because she didn't have the same relationship I had with this guy in the first place, right? He's my friend. He's coming around, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, they know each other. If she's stopped making inroads to meet these ladies that he bring around because they never stay around long enough for them to truly get friends, and then she feels guilty. So she was able to shut that down. And here's a secret for you. Sometimes women are better at that than us guys. Sometimes they can do that. They can see things and know how to back off and distance themselves when we sometimes, feel like we can handle it or we'll fix it later. Not always the case. But nonetheless, I didn't tell my wife. So now I'm keeping a secret from her. One of the things that's been a success story for our marriage is we promised each other a long time ago that we wouldn't keep secrets. That if something was going on, we'd be open and above board about it. And I've tried to do that in almost every instance. But this is one of those instances where this thing is really pulling on my spirit, pulling on my heartstrings, if you will, because this guy is in need. And I'm going to go over here and cash in a bond, or I'm going to go over here and, I'm going to get this money. I don't have to tell her everything. I go ahead and I get this guy this money. All right? But now I'm walking around keeping a secret from her. Invariably, what's going to happen is she's going to have an emergency that comes up and says, I need for you to transfer $500 over to my account or this, that. Now I got to either try to cover for her. You see where this thing starts to have a negative effect. First of all, I should have known when to draw the line with the guy, maybe. But if not, then I certainly shouldn't have been keeping secrets from her. Now, it's easy to sit up there and we talking about you the guy with the money and you're the guy that's being benevolent and having everything go awry. But what if you're the other guy? Because at one time, my brothers, I was the other guy. Several years ago, I got myself in a little bit of a financial jam. Now, a little bit of a financial jam back in those days could have been I was running $200 or $300 late on a bill I had to pay. Financial jam today come up to tens of thousands maybe. Cause the same kind of anxiety, but the point of the matter was I'm probably need $200 or $300. And not going around asking somebody, loan me some money, do this, that, and other. In the general conversation with one of my friends, I told him what my circumstance was. Well, this guy comes back to my house later on that afternoon and hand me $300. Say, here, man, pay me back when you can. Don't worry about it. Just go and take care of your business. I'm going, hey, man, that was real, bro. Thank you. Go on. Well, when I get ready to give the $300 back, I don't know how long it was, but the storyline goes like this. It wasn't his money. He went and got the money from his girlfriend, like he was borrowing the money for himself. Then when she started pressing him to get the money back, he had to come around and tell her that he didn't get the money for him. He gave it to me, and he waiting on me to give it back. I didn't know any of this. Next thing I know, I'm at work. My phone rang, and I have this woman screaming in my ear about her money. I barely know this lady. But yet and still, you see where this got to be a problem. That's why these things sometimes you teeter and totter. You try to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. But that's a trap. So I'm going to tell you right now from personal experience, avoid that trap of keeping secrets. All parties should understand, and this is one of those legal terms I know, the totality of the circumstances. In other words, where does money come from, whatever the circumstance, it doesn't always have to be money. But everybody that's involved or everybody that's going to have an impact on or an effect on needs to know all of the details. Avoid that trap of keeping secrets. Now, here's one for you. Beware of the gift that keeps on giving or the taker that just keeps on taking. Do you know who that person is? Okay, here's the gift that keeps on giving. I buy you a car and give it to you, but you can't afford to keep it up. So now I got to pay the note for a year. I got to buy the insurance. I got to put gas in it every time it breaks down. That's the gift that I got to keep on giving. Or the taker that just keeps on taking. You know, every time you turn around, they need something more. They need something in addition. You helped me out last week, but I need something else. You got to know who those people are and identify them quickly. Now, I'm not saying stop being friends with them and stop caring about them. And Lord knows I'm not saying stop helping people. I'm just saying you need to recognize these pitfalls as you go. Because, see, there's a lot of people who can make a problem out of every solution. Do you know that person? Come on, as soon as I said it, you thought of somebody you know. I don't care how many problems you solve, they always got one more. And even the solution that you gave them to the problem becomes another problem for them that you need to come up with another solution for. Now, if you love them and you care about them and you want to do right, throw your arms around them and make everything feel better and go away, you can do that. But you got to know when it's time to draw the line. When you put yourself out there, make sure you know all the who's and all the whys. And see, here's another strong thing that I want to tell you. If you give it and you expect to get it back, or you can't afford to give it without getting it back, you're probably better off without giving it. That's another lesson I had to learn the hard way. You put something out there and knowing you can't afford not to get it back, it changes relationships for long periods of time. Some people never get over that. So when you give a gift to somebody, when you sincerely want to pour into somebody and give them something that they need, and again, it does not have to be money, folks. Don't get caught up on money. But if you give to something, give into something, or give of yourself to somebody, you need to examine your own motives. Am I doing this to make them think better of me? Am I doing this so other people out there will look at me like I'm the big baller, shot caller? Because that stuff doesn't last very long. Sooner or later, all of that fades away. I guess the bottom line I'm trying to say is, if it matters, it matters. To thine own self be true. Don't fool yourself into thinking it doesn't matter, because sooner or later, everything will matter. I respect you. I hope you respect me. But above all, you respect yourself. Thank you for tuning in this week. We'll be back next week with a different show. Thank you.